Have you ever felt that your voice feels a little bit unstable when you're singing? Maybe you feel that you wobble a little bit, that your pitch feels a little bit inaccurate. Well, if that's the case, stay because today's video is going to be very interesting for you. We're going to be working on breathing and how by breathing correctly, by breathing properly, you can feel more confident and you can feel more in command of your voice. If you're new to this channel, hi, I'm Jimena Cabrera. I am a singer, a songwriter, a vocal coach, and the founder of the Singing Panda, a singing academy where we help you develop your voice holistically, that is mentally, emotionally, and technically. Before we move on, let's recap what we covered in previous videos. We talked about deep breathing and how this means that your belly expands when you breathe in and your rib cage expands as well, while your shoulders and neck remain relaxed. If you've ever watched a sleeping baby or even a pet resting peacefully, you'll notice that their bellies expand and contract very clearly. That is an example of what we call deep breathing. It helps you create more space for air while staying relaxed. In today's video, we're going to zoom in into what happens exactly when you breathe out. In this video, you'll learn what your belly muscles are supposed to do when you sing, how air pressure affects your vocal stability, and a simple exercise you can use to start building coordination. Right, so imagine that we are now practicing your breathing skills and you have already learned how to breathe in. So that essentially means, based on what we saw in our last video, that you are able to expand your belly when you're breathing in, and then that you're also able to leave your shoulders and leave your chest down when you're doing so. Yeah, so that means, remember that when you're expanding your belly, you are engaging your diaphragm essentially. Your diaphragm has lowered, and so it's giving you the possibility to breathe in more air, to have more airline capacity, right? So basically, now what comes next is learning and understanding how to essentially manage all that air that just came in. So what do you do with it, right? And in the last video, I told you that you are supposed to contract your belly, right? We talked about deep breathing as this process of expanding your belly and then contracting your belly, right? So far so good. Now, how do I go about contracting my belly? That's a question that lots of my students ask me when they are learning, when they are in the beginning stages and learning how to breathe effectively. They ask me, all right, okay, I get it. But how am I supposed to contract my belly? What am I supposed to feel, right? And so it's really hard to understand at the beginning what kind of pressure you need to create with your belly muscles, right? So what am I supposed to do exactly? So that's why I came up with the balloon analogy. Basically, here I brought a balloon. So what I'm going to show you now is how, if you have already at some point in your life inflate a balloon, then that means that you know how to do this. It's that simple. It's not that hard at all once you understand the exact type of pressure that you need to create in your belly. And then of course there is the repetition, right? So with everything that we're learning, you always have to remember that it's not just understanding the process, but also helping your body, have the necessary repetition and time to incorporate, to really acquire these new, I don't know if I should call them new skills, because you've been breathing your whole life, like we said before as well. But, understanding how to breathe for singing effectively, right? So let's put it that way. So anyway, if you have a balloon at home, do this with me. I once said this to a student, and she had a balloon. Not only did she have a balloon at home, she had it in her hands before the lesson, and I hadn't even told her that we would be working with balloons. So that was weird, and this happened like last week or so, so I'm still freaked out. But anyway, so what you need to do is, if you don't have a balloon right now, then you can go get one, or you can remember how it feels to inflate a balloon, because I'm sure you have inflated a balloon sometime in your life, right? So the idea is breathe in, like we have already said that we should be breathing if you want to feel relaxed and open for singing. So that means shoulders down, chest down. you expand your belly, and when you contract, you engage your belly muscles, right? Now, when you engage your belly muscles, it should feel like when you are inflating a balloon. And one thing that's very important to remember is that you need to keep the pressure steady. So this just doesn't mean that you contract and then you release. No, for as long as you're singing your phrase, in this case, this equates to us inflating a balloon. So for as long the phrase lasts, your belly muscles need to be tight. Always tight, so that the air pressure that you're creating is stable, and so that you get to have a stable sound. Isn't this amazing? It's simple. It's not that hard, but again, probably the hardest part about this, and with everything, with singing or learning any skill, has to do with consistency and repetition. You giving yourself the possibility to incorporate these habits over time, right? So let's do it one more time. So imagine that you're inflating a balloon at home. Yes, that's how it's supposed to feel. Trust me on this one. This is a game changer when you start to do this. And now in the following section, I'm going to tell you why this is a game changer. So why is this a game changer for you? Because when we talk about breathing, we are talking about you not running out of air, your sound feeling more stable, even not having pitch issues. Sometimes, like we said at the beginning, some pitch issues have got to do with this lack of coordination between how you're managing actually your air, right? Your airflow. So there are a lot of things that could be happening to you where you start to feel like you're not in command of your voice, because this part, this foundational part, which has to do with how to breathe effectively, is not quite clear, or you haven't given yourself the time to repeat and acquire this skill over time, right? So one thing that this is going to give you is the possibility to breathe and feel a lot more free when you are singing and more in command, right? But then the part that I don't know if you have heard before is that how you breathe affects your sound. When you are breathing effectively, you sound different. So part of that polished sound that you hear in professional singers has to do with how they are managing their air. So this does not only affect how comfortable you are when you're singing, but it also affects how you sound and how professional your sound is, right? So for me, this was mind-blowing when I first started to actually learn how to do this, because this takes some time, and it took me some time to understand as well. So one thing is to repeat the exercises, right? And then to start to apply them in your songs. But then another step is actually feeling that how you're breathing is creating a different sound for you. So this will probably not be very clear if you haven't experienced it yet, but just know that the reason why you're doing this is not just because your teacher tells you to do it, right? Or you've seen lots of videos where they're telling you how to breathe, right? So that you don't run out of air and all of these things. This is very, very important. This is one of the things that is going to create the sound that you're looking for. So I hope that you are able to keep doing these exercises. Now I'm going to give you another exercise. This was mostly for, the one that we did with the balloon, mostly for you to gain more awareness of how it's supposed to feel. But now I'm going to give you another exercise, and that exercise you're supposed to repeat. And if you repeat it over a period of time, you're going to start to notice significant changes in how comfortable you feel, and later on in how you sound. All right, so we're going to do an exercise, okay? So let's make this very practical. I'm going to ask you to leave your mouth slightly open like we did in the previous exercise. And then I'm going to ask you to expand your belly as air comes in. Remember that you don't need to do much. you just need to expand your belly and check if you can do this exercise in front of a mirror. It would be even better, so that you can check if your shoulders or your chest are staying down. Okay, so you're going to expand your belly, and then instead of blowing the air out like we did in the previous video, you're going to be making a sound that resembles a hiss. Essentially what I'm saying is like an S, right? Picture a snake, okay? So, that sound is going to tell you, it's going to actually make it more obvious for you to know if the air is actually stable. If it is stable, it means that, I mean, there are no fluctuations, right? So when you hear yourself, you can see that there are no fluctuations in the sound. So that means that the air pressure that you're creating with your abs is stable, okay? Remember that you should be feeling this, getting this same sensation that you get when you are inflating a balloon, right? So that's how your belly is supposed to feel when you're contracting, okay? So let's do it one more time. So I'm going to expand your belly. And when you breathe out, okay? There are two rules for this exercise. Rule number one, it's not supposed to be too long, the sound, right? So I don't want you to try to breathe in too much air when you are breathing in. It's not necessary for this sound. So this, for this exercise. This exercise has nothing to do with you having more lung capacity. It has more to do with you having more command of your airflow, right? So we're going to do it again. So remember, it doesn't need to be, the sound that you're making doesn't need to be too long, but it does need to be, and this is rule number two, it does need to be loud. If it is loud, it tells me that you're really engaging your belly muscles, all right? And so basically that's it. So the sound needs to be steady and the sound needs to be loud. Gonna do it one more time. Expand your belly and contract. If it is this short, that's great, okay? How do I know if it's actually loud? Well, try the loudest that you can and start practicing like that. Also notice, because sometimes I notice that when I teach this exercise, some students tend to create some tension in their jaws or even neck when they're doing this exercise. It's supposed to feel relaxing. So remember that we're always trying to feel relaxed when we're singing, okay? So if it feels tense, then it's not really working. Now, the only place where, or at least one of the only places where we are allowed to create tension and where tension is actually welcome is in your belly muscles, right? So that's where your stability lies. So let's do it one last time, okay? So expand your belly and contract. And that's it, that's your exercise. Troubleshooting. So just in case, let me tell you two things. Sometimes when we're doing these exercises at the beginning, we tend to do them, and I've told you this in the previous video as well, we tend to do them more times than necessary. We tend to do too many repetitions at first because we want to understand how to do it, we want to get it right. And so you might feel a little bit lightheaded if you do too many repetitions. I always say 5 repetitions tops, and then just let it rest until you pick up the exercise later on, at least 30 minutes after your last practice, okay? So that's one thing. Another thing is that sometimes when we don't know, when we're learning how to do these exercises, we create more tension than necessary in our abs. So I have had some students who have told me that after doing the exercise, they started to experience pain in their belly muscles, right? So if that's the case, you can do an exercise like this one and you can repeat it a few times if you feel it's necessary. But know that when you're very used to doing these exercises, it's not supposed to feel like you're lifting, a pianoforte. It's not that type of tension that you need. But, sometimes when we're learning how to do an exercise, you may overdo it without wanting to. So if that's the case, then you can do some stretching exercises so that your tummy feels a little bit better. Oh, and one last thing that I was forgetting to tell you is that another question that I get all the time is, should I be breathing through my mouth or through my nose when I'm doing these exercises? And the answer is, I'm always asking you to breathe in through your mouth, but it's the same basically. For this type of exercise where you're not singing and you have basically a lot of time to do the exercise and you have a lot of time to breathe. So it doesn't matter if you're breathing through for this exercise specifically that we just did, it really doesn't matter if you breathe in through your nose or through your mouth. It's the same. Now, when you are singing your songs, you're going to be in a rush to breathe. I mean, usually we don't have much time to breathe, right? So the gaps where we are able to breathe are rather short, right? It's just a few seconds. So in that case, it makes more sense to breathe in through your mouth because it's more efficient that way. Not because there's something wrong with you breathing through your nose, but it's just more efficient that way. So remember, for singing, you're going to be breathing through your mouth. For this exercise in particular, you can choose. It's basically the same thing. Habit building. And remember, singing technique is not built in a day. It becomes automatic through repetition. If you practice this exercise a few times each day over several weeks, you'll begin to notice that there's less thinking involved. This is the most important skill that you need to master if you are beginning to sing. So know that this will take time because building a habit, which is what you're doing right now, takes time. But also know that if you focus your energy on this particular exercise and you keep repeating it, I would say that if you're consistent, after a month of repetition, this will start to feel more automatic for you, more like second nature. And that's not long. If you're thinking that a month is long, it's really not. So this is usually, in my experience, when I teach students, I notice that this is the first skill that they pick up rather quickly. But also because I ask them to focus a lot and to be consistent, to stay consistent with their practice. So if you stay consistent, you're going to notice that you're able to gradually begin to incorporate this into your singing practice. In the next video that we're going to, there's one more video, one maybe or two coming up, where we will continue to work on breathing. You're going to see how it's very important to have this consistency that I'm talking about, but also how by not forcing things and by staying on your lane and keep doing this exercises repeatedly, over time you start to gain more independence, more autonomy. I'm going to show you the exact path, what happens from beginning to end, actually, from the moment where you learn to breathe and you're beginning to learn how to breathe until you have mastered this specific skill of breathing for singing. So I'm going to show you all the steps. This is something that I love to do, and this is something that we focus a lot on at the Singing Panda, which is I have created actually a track your progress chart. I'm going to share that with you in our next video so that you know what to expect and how it's supposed to feel, how progress is supposed to feel specifically for breathing, so that you know, okay, so where am I now? How am I feeling when I'm breathing? So that's going to give you the possibility to have the right expectation so that you don't get frustrated and know what are the exact stages that you are supposed to cover until in the end, this feels second nature. I'm telling you, when you get used to this, you don't even know that you're doing it. When I'm singing and when any professional singer is singing, we don't think about our bellies like at all. That is something that it's just working by default, right? And the same thing should be happening for each aspect of technique. And so in our next video, I'm really excited to show you that because I don't think I've ever seen it anywhere else. And so that's why I created it, so that I could give my students the possibility to see beyond where they are right now and understand what the next stages are going to be looking like and feeling like. Okay, so that's in our next video. So in the next video, we're going to explore the stages every singer goes through when learning how to breathe. We'll talk about milestones, learning cycles, what progress actually looks like and feels like, and how to know what your next step should be. Because having the right expectations makes the learning process much more enjoyable and much less frustrating. If you'd like to go deeper into the concepts that we explored today, I created for you an ebook that's called Roadmap to Singing Mastery the Singing Panda Way. It's a book that I created for someone who is kickstarting their singing journey, or maybe you have already been taking lessons or watching videos, and you believe that you have information, but you need some structure. You need to understand what comes first. And you also need to understand what role play emotions and your mindset in singing, and how that can actually give you confidence when you're singing, if that's something that you struggle with. So we worked a lot on your emotions and how to handle your emotions and how to handle your mindset. There is one part that is a practice book, and then there's a theory book as well, and you have all the keys so you can solve it on your own at your own pace. So I'm really excited about this book that I created. So if you are interested, there's going to be a link in the description box below for you to check it out. And like I always tell you, if you like this content, please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next episodes, the next videos coming up, the next lessons, I like to call them. And also tell me how the HISS exercise went. Tell me in the comments if you found it easy, if you found it hard, how it went in general, and if you found it useful, most of all. So in the meantime, happy singing, everyone.